Jeffrey Epstein's real crimes and his real clients aren't in any FBI files, although his personal sex crimes are. Despite the common internet idea that Epstein was the blackmailer of elite politicians, royals, and corporate titans, having filmed them in sexual atrocities against children, the real story is very different. He was a bagman for the modern British financial empire's intelligence operations. That is why the files everyone expects have not been produced to date, and why he was murdered, if indeed he was murdered. I'm Barbara Boyd. My friends wrote the book Dope Incorporated, Britain's Opium War Against the United States back in the 1970s. It describes Jeffrey Epstein's world. He was an employee of the corporation which controls the international drug trade. Before I start the real story here, if you haven't already, please go to Promethean Action's website and subscribe. Become a part of our growing and super informed community. Now, this morning finds John Solomon reporting that the FBI has built a conspiracy case with the crimes against Donald Trump going back to 2016, and that a special prosecutor will be appointed concerning Jeffrey Epstein. Roll the tape, please.
Over the next 10 days, the base who's been wondering, where's all that accountability? They're going to get some big surprises over the next week concerning where the conspiracy began. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a special prosecutor named by Pam Bondi in the next week or two. You don't have to necessarily then bring the grand jury or the indictment in Washington, D.C. It allows them to go to some place like Florida. They raided President Trump's Mar-a-Lago house with false pretenses, and then you can bring the grand jury in Florida.
But the effects of Attorney General Pam Bondi's disastrous rollout of what was supposed to be the key documents involving Epstein's blackmail of powerful elite figures remains. The media play around this incident was aimed at breaking the bond between Donald Trump and his supporters and featured both Elon Musk and Stephen Bannon going outright crazy. So today I'm going to first tell you about some known but still astounding facts about Jeffrey Epstein that will show you what it will take to find the truth about this. Then I'm going to show you how Trump's British imperial enemies are using what has happened around the Epstein rollout to date to target Trump's supporters, particularly young people. Finally, I'm going to show you the real battlefield between Donald Trump and the British Empire. That's Trump's war to create a productive national economy and the productive human identity which goes with it. If Trump wins, their empire is over. So first, let's talk about how Jeffrey Epstein was simply a perverted bagman for the modern British Empire. Let's start with some quick, startling facts. I'm relying on the book, One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb, which is amply sourced and documented, and on the research of Mike Benz, who I trust. Epstein's story begins with the elite Dalton School in New York City, where even as a very young man, Epstein was hired and tracked for an intelligence career. Former Attorney General Bill Barr's father, Donald Barr, ran the school after serving in the OSS. At Dalton, Epstein taught math and physics to the children of Manhattan's elite without having any college degree. During that time, he was also spotted frequently at the mansion of the top British financier, Sir James Goldsmith. From Dalton, he went to Bear Stearns on Wall Street, specializing in what are called, quote, esoteric financial products and tax avoidance for wealthy clients, training on the job. He worked directly for Ace Greenberg, the firm's head. If you read about the 2008 financial collapse, Ace and Bear Stearns led the way with their insane derivatives bets and esoteric and worthless mortgage-backed securities fabricated in large part at their City of London office. After Bear Stearns, Epstein began working with a very dirty Saudi arms dealer, Adnan Khashoggi, who financed the Iran-Contra scandal during the Reagan administration here and was a major asset of both MI6 and the CIA. Epstein met Khashoggi through the man named as Epstein's mentor, Sir Douglas Leese, who was a very big British defense contractor and MI6 agent then involved in trafficking arms from China to Iran. Leese was also involved in the British arms deal for oil with the Saudis. That transaction created a black Operation Slush Fund to finance radical Islamic terrorism. Epstein also brokered a deal to transfer ownership of the CIA's 2 airlines to companies he set up in Ohio. So you see, he is completely enmeshed at the highest levels of U.S. and British intelligence in operations these agencies will do anything to protect. These guys don't write things down and file them or send files over to the FBI and DOJ. Any knowledge that exists rests with Epstein's case officers at the CIA, at MI6, and the Mossad, and their notes and phone calls. By all accounts, Epstein's chief skill was tax avoidance and laundering illegal money through Britain's offshore island banks for foreign states and wealthy clients. The business depends on very trusting clients. Blackmailing them through sex would end that relationship. Providing sexual services with minors as a perk, on the other hand, to trusted clients is a very different matter. By 1987, Epstein was handling the billions of Leslie Wexner, the owner of the limited department stores and Victoria's Secret. Leslie Wexner's previous tax-avoiding man had just been shot in a mob hit when Epstein took over. Wexner, in turn, was a key player in a group called MAGA, composed of U.S. and Canadian Jewish billionaires funding Israel and engaging in Israeli intelligence here. Many MAGA members, like Max Fisher of Detroit and the Bronfmans of Canada, also worked with the CIA and the mob. Epstein's other major client was Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. He was an MI6 and Mossad agent who died mysteriously falling off of his yacht. Israel gave him a state funeral for services rendered. And then there are the British royals through Prince Andrew, whose relationships to Epstein caused a major scandal. By the time of his initial arrest for pederasty, Epstein was a full-fledged member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the British Empire's U.S. outpost, the Trilateral Commission of David Rockefeller, and a trustee of Rockefeller University. He had major advisory roles in the Clinton administration and was advising everyone from Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan Chase to Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia to Elon Musk about tax avoidance and financial opportunities in the empire's criminal offshore money havens. That background is why his first prosecutor, Alex Acosta, told the Trump transition team that he was told to go easy on him because he, quote, belonged to intelligence. Focus on the sex part of Epstein's enterprise, and you miss the forest for the trees here in terms of the crimes of the empire, like deindustrializing our country, hooking millions on dope, letting drug cartels and organized crime run rampant, and killing thousands of innocent Americans and millions of foreign citizens in endless wars. Sex trafficking, you say? What about the 300,000 missing children who came into the country under Biden and who President Trump is now trying to find and rescue? Now, Elon Musk and Steve Bannon played the empire's game all week. Much of the noise about covering up his crimes and clients comes from Elon Musk. Musk claims that Trump is compromised by the Epstein files because Trump is in them and therefore they won't be released. Steve Bannon similarly went wild about this all week for a different reason. On Friday, Bannon claimed that a DOJ cover-up about Epstein proved that Trump had been captured by the deep state. But this morning, Bannon is featuring trusted reporter John Solomon. Solomon says that he's confirmed that the FBI has built a conspiracy case covering all the crimes against Trump dating back to 2016, and that a special prosecutor will be appointed to figure out the truth about Epstein. Both Bannon and Musk are in Epstein's Rolodex. Musk consulted him about taking Tesla private. Bannon has hours of interviews of Epstein, which he filmed shortly after Bannon was fired from the first Trump administration. This mysterious footage, which Bannon refuses to release, is generally characterized as an attempt to improve Epstein's image ahead of his sex crimes indictment. Donald Trump did have dealings with Epstein, but they were also not about illicit sex. When Trump found out about Epstein's perversions, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago and then cooperated with the lawyers for Epstein's victims in lawsuits against him. Anyone who has followed Trump knows that he won because of the bond between himself and the American people. Seeing what he has gone through, they trust him, but they're very angry and their trust is fragile. Those supporters have lived through the Iraq war lies, the lies about the 2008 financial collapse, the lies about Russiagate, the lies about COVID, and the lies about Joe Biden's mental competence. His young supporters have been left financially insecure and socially adrift by an elite which hates them. What might be called the Files fiasco operation was aimed at breaking that trust. Many of the people who participated in the 10-year coup against Trump are still at the CIA, the DOJ, the FBI, and the State Department as of last week, and no doubt they played a major role in the Epstein files mess. But the news this morning is that finally, many of them are being fired. If you bought into the Epstein hysteria, ask yourself if you know about the real enemies who engineered America's economic and cultural destruction and the gigantic transformation Donald Trump has undertaken, which can end the British imperial empire and their crimes once and for all. Promethean action exists to help you identify the real enemy and join the president in defeating them. This brings us to the real battlefront. President Trump's drive to revive a self-sufficient, sovereign, and prospering U.S. economy and end the wars which defeat economic development. For the first time in 50 years, Trump is promising a full-set, self-sufficient, productive economy capable of supporting a family on one income and an end to the forever wars. His goal has wage earners able to buy a house, a car, and live the prosperous life of a family from earlier times. With this change comes the wonderful identity of a producer, a builder, not a wage slave, in a gig economy where you are entertained into political passivity with drugs, porn, rage-producing scandals, and staged political circuses, and similar mind-deadening devices. Trump is tossing out the entire British free trade system, which became dominant here again in August of 1971. That's when Richard Nixon destroyed the stable Bretton Woods credit system and replaced it with a British-authored economic scheme, the so-called post-industrial economy. The modern British financial empire, misnamed the deep state by many, knew Trump would do this. That's why they launched Russiagate, centered on the fabricated claim that Trump was being sexually blackmailed by Putin. Sexual blackmail scandals, real or fabricated, is, after all, a British intelligence specialty. That's why their House of Lords admitted explicitly in 2019 that the empire could box Trump in for one term, but not two. So don't be misled by their narratives, their headlines, or your own pessimism and fear. You have to find the courage to qualify yourself to fight this war at the highest levels of intelligence and statecraft. That's what President Trump is doing in a manner not seen in modern times, and he is winning. He is relentlessly focused on building a prosperous future here, while completely bending our international relationships to favor economic cooperation between sovereign nation states and peace. In the next 2 weeks, Susan Kokinen and I will be pioneering a new live question and answer show here on YouTube with our subscribers. Our email newsletter subscribers will be the first to know about the time of this new show, so make sure you're signed up now. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again on Monday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com.